we made it back. We went to Europe, we overheated, we sweated a lot, and we made it back all in one piece. And I know when I was getting ready for this trip, I shouldn't trust everything the internet says, much less Facebook. That was a very, very poor decision on my part, I admit that. But I was worried about like my pump exploding, breaking, and then I'd have to deal with insurance and secondary coverage and all that stuff. But my pump did not have any damage, no cracks, nothing. The only issue I had with this was just like anytime your body's under stress, it's gonna have issues with reading your levels, going too high, too low, whatever. That's the only issue I really had with it, but nothing went wrong, everything went very smoothly. We'll just put it that way. So, and I know I've said this before, I'm the only type 1 that I really know in my world. So, and I kind of figured this out as I went along. But first tip for traveling, and this goes for just regular insulin injections with the pens or the syringes, or using the pump like I do. Always have prepackaged prepared snacks. And this is if you're flying overseas, domestic, whatever. If you're flying anywhere on a plane, generally, always have prepackaged snacks. Don't do any fresh fruit. I know it's healthy, it's a feel-good thing, but I bring Pop-Tarts with and they get really squishy. I didn't have to eat any of them, but I mean, if TSA at the airport takes them and says it's contraband, it's not allowed on, it's, you know, a bomb potential, whatever, it's not like you're out a lot of money. It's not like you're gonna be out grandma's cheesecake bread recipe, whatever. So always have snacks with you, because if you eat them on the plane, on the road trip, whatever, you're always gonna need them regardless. And as a diabetic, you should know that already, but it's not always common sense when you're packing. And I kind of get, my brain has its moments of not so clearly thinking when I'm rushed. So always have prepared or prepackaged snacks that you have ready with you. Second tip is always bring more cash than you think you need. We didn't run out of money on this trip, but I think I brought 500 cash for the trip, and I think Corey brought 500 or 600 cash. But I mean, when you're going to another country and you go to the currency exchange, there's always like a surcharge or fee or whatever for getting it exchanged. And depending on what country you go to, our money wasn't worth as much over there as theirs is over here. So, but not everywhere takes cards. And if your wonderful email gets flagged because it's using a foreign server, server, and your credit card gets frozen, you can't do that. I hate dealing with my email people. Anyway, sorry, I'm going on a rant. Always make sure you bring more cash than you need, because if you need to buy more fruit, snacks, food, anything at a pharmaceutical place, you're gonna want money, and cash is always the safest. Tip number 3, always triple check your supplies. I'm paranoid because I've always left stuff behind whenever I travel, whether it's at friends' houses or across state lines or whatever. I usually forget stuff. So when we were getting ready to leave, I triple checked my supplies, and like socks, underwear, clothes, lotion, all that stuff. I triple check because it's just a given. You're probably gonna forget something. So, and I caught myself. We were in Zurich getting ready to head back home, and my insulin was still in the minibar fridge. But I brought it with, I caught it. But always make sure you check everything. Always make sure you know where it's at, just in case something does happen and you need it, you know, on a short moment's notice. Always make sure you know where everything is and that you have it packed with you. Tip Tip number 4. Always figure out a baseline for carbs and measurements. And I didn't think about this much until we got over there. We got into Austria and I was going low when we came in and nobody stopped us at customs. We didn't know what we were doing. We were so jet lagged and tired. And I was going low, so I ate like some of the snacks that they gave us on the airline. But when we started going to the grocery markets there, and I know I just did like 2 videos about this, but Europe's way of measuring their everything is completely different than in the States here. And it threw me for a loop because I just assumed like back home, everything is labeled for what is packaged in there. It's not per measuring unit. You know, it's a completely different thing, especially bread. Bread was a doozy over there. Really good, freshly made every day. Absolute chaos with my levels. So that took about 2 days before I figured out like what was good to eat, what was safe to eat, just blood sugar, carb wise, time wise with my levels. So, and that took some trial and error and a lot of alarms going off, but I always try to figure out a safe, reliable carb system. Tip number 6, always check your battery life on everything, whether it's your pump or your phone, your test meter, anything that takes batteries, charging, anything. Always make sure you have a way to bring more life back into what needs juice. Tip number 7, always bring doctor's notes to cover your butt. And I've never had a problem with this traveling anywhere. Last year when we did London and Ireland, nobody cared about my insulin pens, the syringes, none of that. Minneapolis was good. They didn't care. They just didn't like, having something interrupt their normal system. Like, all right, you're opting out of the metal detector and the scanner. What the heck? They were fine though, and they were training people in. They were really good and friendly. Switzerland, on the other hand, I did not appreciate. For being such a neutral country, their TSA people are not friendly at all. And if you don't speak German or Swiss German, they like you even less. We went through and I put all my bags up on the conveyor belt, and then we're going through, and Corey and I both said, I can't go through the detector. Why not? I'm like, oh God. So then Corey goes through because he doesn't have any issue with that. And they only had one scanner, and I don't know if it was just a scanner or if it was a metal detector or everything roped into one, but they weren't nice. And the woman who was checking, like sorting out your shoes from your wallet, from your liquids to your dirty clothes, just gave me this really snotty look. And she goes, whatever, German. And she yells over at 3 other people, and they waved me over and essentially said, well, why are you refusing to go through? And I said, I can't. I have a doctor's note. And I had 2 papers that say, in all caps, cannot go through detectors. And they said, well, it's not a metal detector. It's just a scanner. I'm like, nope, I'm not going through there. And she's like, no, the only people that can't go through this is the ones with the heart issues. I'm like, I'm not doing it. Like, I had no problem getting over here. There shouldn't be any issue. You just have to do a body check. I'm fine with that. And then they start talking amongst themselves, and they started laughing and pointing at me, and I'm like, nope. I gave them the paper, and she's like, fine, I'll do the body search, but there's no problem with you going through that. I'm like, So, and because I'm pretty sure it's only your pump that can't go through the scanner detector thing. But even if I went through the regular scanner, my transmitter and sensor and all the other hardware that's in there, it's still going to set the alarms off. It's still going to make a scene. It's just easier to do the full body pat down or whatever. And once we got through that, I mean, she did a half-hearted search. She just did like a boop, 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 and like around my waistline and underneath my feet, and that was it. She just didn't want to do it, but stick to your guns. Don't let them put you through that, because pumps aren't cheap. The transmitters and everything else that goes with it, you don't want that to get fried. I think it wipes the memory on it or whatever computer hardware is in there. I'm not 100% sure on that, but always have your doctor's notes on you. Don't forget them anywhere. Always make sure you have them, especially when there's other languages that are the prioritized languages. What tip is this now? 5, 6, 7. Tip 7? Always expect people to stare. It was a record-breaking heat wave, and we weren't expecting that, so I take my shirt off because I still have my tank top on, and the first like 3 days that we were over there, my transmitter was on my arm. Everybody stares at it. So just get used to the staring. There's really nothing you can do to stop it, so, and you get used to it to some extent. Tip number 9, try to stick to a routine as much as you can. I take thyroid pills, and that has to be in the morning, which on that time setup was at like 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So you kind of have to stick to a schedule, and even with your sensor and transmitter changing, charging, whatever, you have to keep somewhat of a schedule. So do the same with your sleeping patterns, because that's just better for your body overall and for your levels and your ranges and just everything as a whole. So try to stick to a routine as much as you can. Once you get over the jet lag, it's easier. And then tip number 10, just relax. And it's not easy for me to adopt the philosophy of come what may, whatever happens will happen. But I mean, if something happens, there's not a whole lot you can do about it because it's already done and it's already happened. Like for me, Medtronic is worldwide. I think they have like a Medtronic place in Switzerland somewhere, but pretty much in every country they're there. Otherwise, they're able to ship internationally and whatever else. So, and I mean, as long as you have your snacks, you know how to check your level, you can wake up, you have someone else there to be, as like a second set of awareness. Just relax, enjoy vacation or your work trip or whatever reason you're traveling. But, and like I said, most of these I didn't really think about until we started. It came down to like the last 10 hours before we left, and I was freaking out. But everything went fine except for the heat. I went low a few times, and part of that was just from all the heat, and we did a lot of walking. I know the one day we walked like 9 miles and climbed 11 flights of stairs by taking the trams and the subways and all that stuff. But I mean, exercise and what you eat, it's all part of a normal daily life for you. So as long as you are still able to counteract your normal life, switching over to vacation mode should be simple. Like I said, it seems simple. It's just when you're actually, like, this was my first vacation with a pump and dealing with all of this. So for me, a lot of this was my first. And it just would have been nice to have someone tell me, like, here's some 10 basic tips. So hopefully that helps. Looking back now, it makes absolutely clear sense. It's obvious, but hopefully this helps someone else out. And yeah, we're not gonna plan a trip for a while now. We're both kind of over traveling for a bit, unless it's like within a 4-hour driving radius of where we live. But it was fun. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I didn't stay home just because I was scared of traveling and scared of all of the what ifs and what could go wrong, what might go wrong, what probably will go wrong. There was a lot of good to be said about doing it, so I'm happy we did the trip, and there was a lot of memories and a lot of mosquito bites out of Switzerland. That was not fun. I'm still reaping those benefits, but okay, I will see you next week.